To make your bent handle, take a piece of alder or whatever wood you choose and cut it to 24 inches long. Then we're going to joint the edge and we'll cut strips, thin strips on the table saw. To make those thin strips, we're going to have to remove this, or else I can't set the fence any less than about 1/2 of an inch. I need to set it to 1/8 of an inch. So I zoomed it in, move the fence out of the way. I want to be able to show you how to take this off. Lift this up, and then pull the throat plate out after you turn the machine off. There's a main switch in the front, just flip it down. Okay, now inside of this, and I know the angle is a little bit weird, there's a door on the right side. You just have to push it off. It's on a hinge, just kind of push it out of the way. And then a handle on this right side that I lift up. Just grab and lift, and you can see that this is kind of released. That's it. It's just in a few pins here. There's that handle I meant. Drop it back down, move the door back in, and that's it. Put the plate back on. Now, there's some screws here and here, and they interlock. So these screws go underneath these screws, the heads, and that's what keeps it nice and flush. That's my adjustment. So you can't just set it on top like that. It's too high, about 1/8 of an inch. So you bring it back till you'll feel it drop, put it in, we're ready to go. Just move this out of the way and then set this fence. I have found that a hair less than 1/8 of an inch. And when I mean a hair, when you see the hash line here, I'm talking put it that far more in, less than 1/8 of an inch, and that's just a little bit. I found that making the handle a hair on the smaller side makes it fit better later on. Now I've stayed zoomed in because I want you to see what's going on here. The blade's a bit too high for this, so I'm going to take and just lower this down so that the bottom of the gullets here between the teeth match the top of the board. So it's still sticking up a little bit. All right, my 24-inch board, my good jointed edge against the fence. So this gets a little bit tricky. You obviously must have your push stick ready to go. And yes, I will be cutting through the push stick a little bit. That's fine. That's why I make them. I make them so thick so I can just cut another groove and that's okay. So you're going to cut through. But the technique is, as I'm cutting, if I push here against the fence, and you will want to push there, because that's what you're used to, is just shoving it in, I'll burn it. Because once I get through to here, all of a sudden that gap, I'm squeezing that shut. Now it's going to be catching the back end of the blade and burning. It creates a lot of friction. So watch the technique. I'm not going to ever push past the blade. And when my hand does go through, I'm not shoving it in. I'm just fingering it through so it stays straight. So yeah, hold it tight. Let it slide through. Grab my board. And I'm keeping it tight against the fence, and I'm just pushing that through. The idea is no burn. Now you can see even I've got a burn, but on the back where all my pushing was, it wasn't there. So let's try it again. Be careful. You saw my board rise up. That is the downside of having the blade so low. It'll want to go up. Just hold it. You saw me. Back up, hold it down. So there's number 2. If there are little burns on it, that's not the end of the world. Alder burns super easy, but let's keep trying. Okay, that one's better. All right, there's another one. And I need enough to get 3/4 of an inch. So that is, this is set at 1/8, so that is 6/8, 6 cuts. So I'm now up to 4. There's number 5. And there is 6. Now, if you're doing multiples, of course, just keep cutting. And remember, if you'd like to spice this up a little bit, you are welcome to cut different woods out of this to make them light or dark or alternating. I'm just going to do all alder, but you're welcome to do that. The only last thing I wanted to mention is you notice that this board has no knots in it at all, 0 knots. You do not want to hit a knot with this. So if I hit a knot, it's not that it blows up, but it's going to snap in two. So it won't do any good. So make sure as you're cutting, you have a clear board. Make your 6 cuts, and then we'll glue them together. As you can see from the setup, this was cut out on the CNC machine. These 2 parts match perfectly so that anything I squeeze in the clamps will start to bend. So I've got 3 clamps here, 2 on the outside and 1 in the middle, and I'll tell you right now, it's the one in the middle that's the big one that you need to get right. Now, it doesn't matter the order of these. That's completely up to you. You can, move them around however you wish. So I just like to spread them out like this. There's my last one. And put a bead of glue on 5 of them, not 6. So take all your pieces, just make sure each one has a little bit of glue in there. Squeeze them together, move it around a little bit. I'd like to see some glue squeeze out along the top, and that's what I'm getting, so that's good. It doesn't have to be perfectly centered. This is a little oversized, but do the best you can. And of course, you're going to get glue everywhere. I know that. The jig's going to get glue on it. That's fine. I would also recommend having a mallet next to you. Just a little mallet here so that if these start popping up, I can tap them back down. Now I start with the middle one. Just push it in. Just pull it in by hand and then start squeezing it in. There we go. I want it as centered as I can get it. There we go. Now, as you can see, one of my boards cracked. The glue should hold it, but I'm going to keep going here. Once that's pretty tight, I'm going to move this in just a little so that they're right on here instead of the very end. And give it a hit. It seems to be down just fine. And go ahead and tighten those up. So I see this little crack in here, and I'm hoping that that's got enough glue in it, and I see a little bit of glue squeezing up, that doesn't pop off. If it does, I'll deal with it, and we'll make another. There we go. That looks good. Take that glue off the end of the mallet, and then go ahead and tighten up the middle. Okay, that's about it. So don't worry if it's a little bit uneven. This needs to be shaved and planed down. We're obviously going to scrape all the glue off. This is normal. So we're building it way oversized. So after this is dry, we'll shave this down to make it look good.